want to mention that Rohit is taking photographs. Stand up. Rohit is doing photography for us. So if you need an image from the conference, or you're just interested in some of the photos, just talk to Rohit there, and he'll share those with you. How are we doing? Awesome. The floor is yours.
What a great morning so far. Thanks everybody so much for taking the time to listen to our presentation today. I know lunch is coming up, so I'll try to be as quick as we can. Just for me to gauge the floor here, I'm going to try to figure out who's in the crowd. The first presentation this morning on deep convolutional neural networks and body joint localization, body pose estimation, how many people, just by show of hands, looked at that and went, what is this guy talking about? Everybody understood what that meant? Wow. All right. We're hiring. All right. And how many, just again by show of hands, how many hockey guys are sitting here looking at this going, well, this is a lot of data, and how do teams actually use this stuff? Okay. So pretty healthy mix. Good. So this is the single most interesting thing about our office is we have, so we're a team of 21 computer vision PhDs, master student software engineers. We have 6 full-time PhDs on staff. And the most interesting thing about when you walk in is you can divide a line down the center of our office on, computer vision, machine learning, data people, and hockey people. And getting those guys to actually speak the same language and turn insights and pixel measurement into things that teams can use has been the single most fun thing I've done in the last 2 years. So I will briefly introduce Pierre Caron, who is a PhD from a number of universities, did some work here during his...
At U Ottawa.
All right. Here, Ottawa, yeah. So we're based in Montreal. So, brief intro, my name is Craig Munton. I'm a former Olympic athlete, retired in 2010, went to, did my MBA, and as part of my MBA I did this sort of independent study on what is the future going to look like and what types of really cool technologies will exist, how will they shape our lives. I came out of university going, what is the next thing I want to do? And I had some grand vision for computer vision, machine learning. I realized very quickly that one of the only things I knew a lot about was sport. So took these grand ideas and brought them to some very smart computer vision people who were building security surveillance technologies that tracked and analyzed people movement. Brought that to a number of investors, and we started a company. What do we do? So you can think of analytics as being 2 things. One is player tracking. So you guys saw the SMT presentation earlier, where there is sort of player location, XY coordinates of where the players are at any given time. That gives you really interesting sort of spatio-temporal information. Where are the players? What are the patterns? What are the shapes? Where are players that are off puck located? Just really interesting things about the player movement itself in a game. Our initial platform that we built did exactly that, which was 30 times a second, track and analyze the location of every player on the ice. Why this is interesting is because prior to us existing, the Penguins and the Canadians, if they wanted this information, they would have to either put a chip on the player or put multiple cameras in stadiums or very expensive hardware setups. The first demo that we built, in fact, this might even be it, was just a video off of YouTube. So this was software only, single camera, we don't need access to the stadium, and we can just essentially pull the tracking information from wherever. So first interesting part. The second interesting part is exactly what that paper that was presented this morning does, which is learn the body movements of the players. What machine learning and convolutional neural networks do is track and analyze sort of where the body poses are. So we can not only learn where the player is, but what they're doing. So you can think of there being sort of game events and tracking. Those are the 2 types of data that you can collect in order to build your game models off of. So we operate under the assumption that both of those pieces of information are interesting. The game events themselves, if you can collect everything, and you can provide the tracking information to understand the context. So if there was a line carry, well, where were the other players? If there was a shot, where were the other players? What is the context around each of the events that there is? So there's sort of 2 ways of doing it, and you can think of sort of the amount of data and then the scalability of that data. Manual entry will get you things like the last presentation, which, by the way, I think was brilliant in terms of how do you get this information and find some insights out of it? I think the amount of work and creativity and just sort of overall vision in getting that done was insane, and I'm so impressed. But the point with that is you can take a number of people and you can brute force your way through getting that information. So what we collect as an example, we collect every single loose puck recovery, every pass reception, every line carry, every shot, every stick check, every body check, every block pass, every attempted block pass, in addition to 30 times a second where all of the players are located. So essentially everything that happens in a game of hockey is collected. So what does that mean? Again, we're breaking this down into two parts. The XY coordinates, this is a rough estimation, and I think if any of our engineers were here, they would probably headbutt me for putting 756,000. But what that is essentially 30 frames per second for an entire game of hockey, anywhere from 7-ish players on the ice at any given time. The 200 types of hockey events in hockey, again, I just listed them, so really everything that you can do on puck. And we track roughly 3,900 events per game. We track every event in the NHL. Our full data set, fully quality controlled, has a 37-second latency right now, meaning within 37 seconds, we have everything that happens in any single game of hockey, quality controlled and out the door. That information now, this was our phase as a company. It was, first phase is me running around with a spreadsheet going, look, we have data, we have cool stuff. We came to a number of NHL teams essentially with an Excel spreadsheet, like guys, let's do stuff with this. A few of them jumped on board at first, so when we came here last year, I think we were working with 7 teams, maybe 7 to 10. We steamrolled through the NHL this year. We signed on 21 teams over this past season. So we are really, our data is now behind a good portion of the decisions that are made on a number of teams. So in terms of data collection and pushing the data to teams, that's sort of what we do. All right, so caveat to start this. We work with PhDs who come up with very complex models. One such PhD is beside me. I tried to simplify this as much as possible because I knew I would be presenting today. Another show of hands, is there anybody, who in this room wants access to our data? Our stuff is just out there, it's just good. Awesome. Who here wants to work for us? Awesome. So we are now at the point where we're looking to really scale as a company, and we're hiring like mad. The primary reason that I'm here is to recruit anybody who just put up their hands. We work with the teams, and the teams want to win games, so we can't just hand out the data to everybody. I would love to, because I can tell you it is fun. Our office hockey pool was the most fun I've ever had this year. But it's, the teams want to win, and the teams are, the teams have access to all the data so that they can win games. There are some media things that we can do, but obviously if a team's going to pay to get this data so that they can win games, on the media side we have to narrow down the scope of what we can offer publicly, and we do so working with broadcasters. So we currently work with, let's get into this and then I'll keep going. So this is essentially, how do you categorize types of shots? I've put 3 labels on here, and they are just brutal summaries of exactly what these actually are. But there are, when you take the location and the event itself, sort of the events leading up to the shot, which again I think the last presentation did a really good job of doing. When you have the tracking information as well, you can begin to categorize the types of shots. So what we've done is we've said, of the types of shots, and there were, I think, all in all, 1,000-ish. Different sequences, 216. Yeah. So we took roughly 13, which were sort of the highest cluster of those types of sequences, and we said of those, which had the highest percentage of goals, and then which had the, how about you explain this?
So technically here it should be proportion, because it needs to multiply by 100. So proportion of all goals is on the x-axis. Shooting percentage, so given a type of shot, how often it gets in the net, again, should be times 100 if you want percentages actually. Higher is most effective per shot. And then low, the x-axis, higher is more goals are from that particular pattern. And the size of the dots is what proportions of the shot come from this type. So there's obviously very few breakaways. So it's a very small dot, but it's very effective. And your common outside shots, tons and tons of them. They're not all to get goals because obviously it's not a good way to generate goals. But because there's so many of them, it's still like about 16 or 17% ball. And
that's what this means. So why this is interesting is because when you're actually doing this functionally, what you want to do is put yourself into the seat of the person who's got to make a decision to win the game, right? So they might be looking at these outside shots as a means to do something else. For instance, create those puck recoveries in front of the net so that they can generate more shots from the inner slot. What we are doing with this, so why this is kind of cool is you can categorize the types of shots and then see and take a snapshot of what they are. High side of this is essentially high danger shots. The low side would be low danger. And I guess if you could take a summary statement. What you can do with that, if you can look at it offensively, you can also look at it defensively. You can look at the number of high danger shots the goalie is actually seeing, the number of high danger shots that you're making versus you're seeing. You can then, in some sense, at the very least, separate the defensive strength from goalie strength, which is again at a snapshot level what we're doing here. So defensive strength would essentially left to right on the x-axis would be how many high danger shots your goalie is seeing.
First, you are more to the left.
Correct. Yep. So goalie strength would then be the number of shots that they're saving against high danger shots, normalized to their per 60. Trying to make it look as pretty as possible. What you're saying is sort of on the left would be the number of high danger shots that these goalies are seeing. The up and down would be the number of high danger shots that they're saving. And then I kind of just put a few names on here just to get a sense of defense versus goalies on a few of the teams. Color of the dots is whether the team made the playoffs or did not make the playoffs. So you can kind of, very clear sweeping statement that yes, if you have strong defense and strong goalies, you're probably going to make the playoffs. But just to, again, get a sense of the types of things that you can do with it. I also want to make the point that coming here, we're here really to kind of just show that we're here to recruit people, to give people a sense of the types of things that we're doing. So if you can imagine that this is the type of things that we're doing on shots, all of the defensive stuff, all the neutral zone play, we have, again, 6 full-time PhDs working on this. We fund research projects at SFU, UBC, U of T, and McGill. So those research labs are coming to Montreal 3-4 times a year and actually working with us on early stage research. So in terms of the types of insights that you are seeing, this is Craig giving you a snapshot of what one thing that we do with shots. So just to get a sense of how deep that rabbit hole goes. This is sort of our what can you do with data, right? 1, you can work with teams and leagues. 2, you can work with broadcast digital media to tell better stories. 3, and then there's fantasy and sports gaming, right? Like how do I win games against in our office hockey pool? On the teams and leagues side, I think it's pretty obvious. On the broadcast digital media side, I will show a quick video of one of the ways that it's being used right now. And I'm not sure if the volume is going to work, so I will apologize in advance.
This is GMC, this is Precision GMC, we are professional grade. I feel like when Jack came back, we talked about controlled entries. We're still talking about it 2 games in. Yeah, first of all, look at his speed and the respect he gets by the defenseman backing off the blue line. He's so talented. First in the National Hockey League, yes.
So what is that? It's cool. It's controlled entries. Awesome. That's the story, right? What's cool about this is what went into it. So what we do with our media clients is number 1, we automate the actual stories. So we'll run queries across every piece of data, every time sequence, every every player, every lineup, every matchup, and come up with maybe 10 interesting stories. We send them these interesting stories. They come back with, oh, that's cool. We'd like to see a little bit more of, this thing. So one of the things in this particular game was Michael's line carries. He happened to have the most in the NHL. So there's a couple of parts of it, right? One is segmenting the player itself. This comes back to the paper that was this morning that talks about convolutional neural networks and body joint localization and activity recognition, understanding where the player is and understanding where that player's body is at any given time and being able to segment that out. That allows you to do things like graphics and moving foreground from background on the video itself. The second thing is knowing the lines are drawn on the actual video. So being able to show graphics, advertisements, numbers, and integrate the data into the actual video and the story itself. So having essentially better storytelling tools and being able to put that onto the video and stream it directly. This is a hint, just an initial first pass at what this is actually going to be. Because what we're able to do now is take the data, understand what's happening at any given time in the game itself, flag the story, and push the graphic, meaning we could actually personalize the individual stories that are told through things like social media. So being able to understand that, somebody was knocking Toronto earlier, so I'm a Toronto fan, and actually, wow, I just said that, no, hang on, I'm a no fan, I am neutral, but if the person who presented earlier would say I'm a Toronto fan, you could flag interesting stories about great things that Toronto's doing and push the graphics directly to social media and through whichever medium you'd like. If I have 10 friends that I know are Montreal fans, well, I can tell bad stories about Montreal and push them through mine so I can share and chirp my buddies, right? Like this type of engagement and personalization is the type of thing that you can do with the graphics and the data. So this is where we're headed on the broadcast and digital media side. And on the third vertical, so fantasy and sports gaming. I put this little panda here, and this is hilarious. So we have an office hockey pool, and we've got, again, some of the brightest people I've ever met in my life. And you've got the data guys building models and picking their players, and then you've got the hockey guys building models and picking their players, and all kinds of, going back and forth with that. Herbie is a bot. Now Herbie is a Slack bot. He talks to us in Slack. Herbie told us in Slack that Nashville was going to beat Chicago. We all told Herbie he was stupid. Herbie was right, and I think what we need to do next is teach Herbie how to trash talk, because our predictive models right now on picking players and on picking game winners, are off the charts. They're beating both the data guys and the hockey guys. So these are the types of things that you're going to be able to begin doing with this type of data. Intellectual property, that's boring. So in the last, we have been a company for just less than 2 years. We've signed on 21 teams. We're about to apply for our 7th provisional patent. And we have, again, one of the most incredible teams that I've ever had the fortune of working with. 6 full-time PhDs on staff, and Pierre Javon is not even on the deck yet. That's how new he is. And we work, again, with a number of universities, and apparently we're in early discussions about doing some work here as well. Mark Cuban is one of our investors. We have a good handful of very strong, very prolific investors now. Part of the thing that I think is really exciting for people like Mr. Cuban is that we speak on a weekly basis, actively involved, very excited about what this is. When our investors do come in, they're looking at this going, this is one of the most exciting portfolio companies I've had the chance to work with. So it's where we're at right now, just in terms of the team itself on all aspects of the company, is just really, really exciting. So yeah, the only thing, I put a button on this literally right before I walked down. I wanted to put some kind of hook to end the, so the only thing missing from here is you. That was the best end to a presentation I can give. I apologize. But thank you all so much again, and we would love to hear from anybody out there who raised their hand today or who has been on Twitter saying, God, I wish I could see their data. We want you to work with it. We want this to be the most exciting hockey company out there in the world today. Our data, I mean, it's going to change the way the sport is played, and we'd love you to be part of it. Thank you. Are there any questions for Pierre Jahon?
Hi. I was wondering if you guys are looking to expand into different sports, perhaps. Like, are you sticking with hockey, or would you want to expand into something
So
else?
we're sitting here at the Hockey Analytics Conference. We are a Canadian company. I literally have a Maple Leaf tattooed on me. So we are a hockey analytics company. Where we're going in the future, there are a number of sports that are technology we do work on currently. Basketball and soccer primarily, because the dynamics of the sport, the footage, where the players are located. Will we expand into those sports? 100%, because we're not doing this to be a good company, we're doing it to be the best company. Will we do it tomorrow? Probably not, because we want to, again, be the best hockey company first. That was surprisingly easy. Oh no.
For your daily shot metric, was it incorporate shots in the penalty field and power play?
Can you repeat the question, please?
For your dangerous shots metric,
Yeah.
does it incorporate shots on for special teams that you power play penalty field?
So this was only even strength right now. Aside from that, pretty much it. Yeah. It is shot sequences, essentially. We have 216 different shot sequences from 4 net shots, and we're moving to beyond that.
There was a really interesting question earlier about should data drive team decisions, or should the team requests drive the data. We started as we had a really heavy service component, so when we were working with scouts, we were working with teams, we looked at the types of questions that were coming in. And what was really interesting is some of the questions would be really particular about the teams themselves. So we had to ensure that if the team asks a question, you can't just build that into a product and give it to all the teams, right? You've got to give it to that particular team only. However, from the research and analysis side, understanding what types of questions are being asked, you've got hockey guys who've never looked at data in their life, and they're asking questions right from the gut in terms of, what's the next decision should they be making, how does grit and heart play into this, and building those types of models specific to those questions and allowing those questions to drive the research has really been the way that we've approached this. I think I just went off on a tangent, and I'm going to stop right now.
Are your services appropriate for junior hockey organizations, or are you kind of trying to target more NHL and more resource spaces?
So I mentioned that I was an Olympic athlete. Everybody knows, I think, that Canadian Olympic athletes make about zero money. And had this been around when I was training, it would have completely changed my life. If I, as a junior competitor, I had been noticed in some arena in Kelowna, BC, and then compared with all other players at my level, and somebody had noticed me, it would have totally changed the way that my life trajectory. The original goal for this was, let's build technology that we can bring the NHL teams on. Let's move it to Hockey Canada. Let's move it right down to midget and allow essentially the sort of LinkedIn for players, where when they play, they can compare themselves across the entire country and the entire world, and at the same time be discovered. That was the original plan, and that's exactly where we're going. The question is really more a matter of where the technology is. You can look at this as either you're putting wearables on players, or you're putting computer vision and multiple cameras and things like that. I have a really cool chart that goes up and to the right it's not on this slide, but it talks about our progression as a company. We want to see this technology built into phones eventually, where you've got coaches and parents or anybody videotaping games, and that information is essentially analyzed and put onto the single platform where you can see some form of analytics off it. So the long answer is all of that, and the short answer is yep.
Question over here regarding how you might be able to get your data set into the hands of software developers. So there's a direct route, you can hire people. What about publishing an API? And is that something you guys considered internally? Is that on the roadmap?
100% it is. Do we publish it through the NHL? Do we publish it, maybe some teams wouldn't care if some of their information was out. Do we publish a subset of that data? These are all really sort of big business questions. We've been a company for a year and a half, 2 years. So our first objective was like, look, let's just build the right insights and build this thing. Build a system that understands the game in a way that has never been understood before, and we'll go from there. Do we build an API for developers? I would love to. We're going to have to just be really creative in terms of determining how much we can pull into the public sphere without stepping on our customers' toes. So,
Possibly releasing it anonymized?
possibly. Yeah, let's talk.
Let's thank these guys again.